In Irish mythology, the Firbolg were the fourth among the first 5 groups to settle in Ireland. They are the direct descendants of the remnants of the third group of invaders, the Nemedians, who fled Ireland because of their brutal oppression by the Fomhoire, the gross, evil, underworld demon giants of Ireland. If you want to learn more about those guys, well, you're in luck, because it just so happens that an incredibly informative and handsome video just got made last week by yours truly. In any case, one of Nemed's grandsons fled to Greece, where he would establish a race known as the Firbolg, or Men of Bags. Nope, not the fun types of bags, you naughty boys. These guys were enslaved by the Greeks and forced to carry bags of soil and clay. So cut to around 200 years of slavery later, the Firbolg finally have had enough and managed to escape the clutches of the Greeks. Having kept the story of their lineage alive through oral retelling down the generations, the legends of utter crack they had in Ireland had grown too infamous for them to deny. However, as the fates of the world are wont to do with certain groups of people, the Firbolg's golden years were not to last. The rule in Ireland was brief, lasting a mere 37 years before the Tuatha De Danann, basically the gods of ancient Ireland, came in from the northwest of Connacht in a cloud of mist and absolutely rocked their shit. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, let's see what they did with their time as rulers of Ireland, limited though it was. Easily their most impactful achievement on the rest of mythology and Irish history during their brief rule was they split the land into 5 provinces between their 5 greatest chieftains, with Eachad MacEirc situated at as the very first High King of Ireland to rule over them all. For those of you who don't know, current day Ireland is split into 4 provinces. For those of you who did know that, you might be asking yourself, what's with the 5th province of the Firbolg? Well, what's so impactful about the Firbolg's division of the country is that the ancient provinces are basically the same as ever: Ulster, Leinster, Connacht and Munster. The main difference being that the county of Meath, that is modern day counties of Meath and Westmeath, now situated in Leinster, was actually a province in itself. This is where Eachad MacEirc ruled from, being the central point of the island. If a chieftain was getting a bit big for his boots, he'd be like, "No, stop it!" Or if there was a cattle raid up here, he'd be up in a flash, man. This is where the province got its name from, Meath, which is a derivative from Mead, meaning middle. Not gonna lie, that blew my mind a bit when I found that one out, in no small part because it's such a brilliant idea geographically. His residence at Tara would have allowed him to maintain control and communication with the surrounding rulers, ensuring stability and cohesion throughout ancient Ireland. While he lived and ruled from Meath, the province in itself would have had its own chieftain. Eachad's role would have been to oversee and keep unification over the entire Firbolg domain. Specifically, this was carried out from the Hill of Tara, the ancient inauguration site and traditional seat of the High Kings of Ireland. While their reign in Ireland was just beginning to bloom after their long subjugation in Greece, it was not to last. Unbeknownst to them, a force with which they couldn't hope to compete had set their eyes on Ireland, and it meant business: the Tuatha De Danann. The Tuatha De Danann are difficult people to describe, mainly because sources differ wildly in their exact nature. Some call them ancient gods, some call them fairies, others druids, or simply a race gifted with supernatural abilities. But one thing is for sure, they were extraordinary in magic, the arts and warfare. The sources of our earliest interpretations of this race are from monks from the 11th to 14th century, and so it's widely believed that these early Celtic godlike beings were demoted in their transcriptions in favour of a newer, trendier model. What have I always said, man? Y'all know we gotta get our fix of Jesus on this channel. God damn, can I get a hell yeah? Regardless of their official title, these guys were no joke, and here they come, in on a cloud of mist with their 300 ships, and literally burned them so that there is no escape for them but to conquer Ireland. My god, man, what level of big dick fucking energy right there. Landing in Connacht like that, straight up pulling like Randy Marsh.
What do you want to do, huh? What do you want to do?
You better shut up, asshole!
I'm standing right here!
Shut up!
In any case, they settled themselves in my grain for the present. The coming of the Tuatha Dé was actually known to Eachad, a premonition having come to him in a dream. He took counsel with his chief advisors, and it was agreed that a champion was to be sent to see the strangers and speak with them. And here we meet one of the biggest chads in all of Irish mythology, Shreng. Keep your eye on this guy because he's a force to be reckoned with. He saddled himself with a head covering, a large brown shield, and 2 thick-handled spears and an iron club, and set out from the Hill of Tara making its way for Migraine. But before he could reach it, the two of the Dedanen played a reverse Uno card and sent out their own champion, Bress, to act as their ambassador. Spying each other, they carried on warily until they were within talking distance. They both stuck their shields in the ground and peered over the rim. Being both of the line of Nemed, they could understand each other, for they both spoke Irish. What they discussed on that plane would soon decide the fate of Ireland forever. They started by exchanging spears, not in a fighting way. They literally handed each other the type of spear used by their people, each marvelling at the other's craftsmanship. The Firbolg spear, being named the Kreisach, were broad, heavy spears with heads of no point but sharpened sides. The two of today's were sharp, tin and hard pointed. They each would take the other's spear back to their people so as to gain an insight into how they fight. Then Brace gave the two of the Dedanen's terms for peace between the two peoples. If the Firbolgs gave up half of the island to them, there would be no battle. Both went back to their people and advised them not to take up arms because they each feared each other's weapons and taught them greater than their own. However, Eokid's decision was unrelenting. We will not give up half of the country to these strangers, for if we do, they will soon take the whole. Which, I mean, you can't say fairer than that. These guys just got a land of their own, and now they've got to give half of it away just because these assholes decide to show up on a cloud of mist? I think not. In any case, the two of the Dedanen, once told that their sturdy and well-armed opponents, retreated farther west of Connacht to a land of much better natural defence, Maignia, where the great mountain Belgata covered their rear. While they set up their defences, the battle goddesses Maka, Madub and Marigu stole away to the hill of Tara. If you know anything about these bad bitches, you don't want them anywhere near your fortress, trust me. They go ahead and shroud the fortress of the Firbolg in a black cloud and rain down fire and blood upon them for 3 days and nights, creating chaos and confusion among the Firbolg and delaying them from planning their assault. Eventually, the three druids of the Firbolg, Cesarin, Nyatak and Inyatak, managed to throw off the goddess's enchantments. Once Eokid and his 5 chieftains were able to gather themselves and strategize, the Firbolgs led the full strength of their army of 11 battalions from Tara to meet the two of the Dedanen and discuss the final terms before bloodshed. Negotiations quickly fell apart as the Firbolg refused the conditions of the two of the Dedanen outright. In order to gauge the strength and skill of each side, a game of hurling was proposed. Now bear with me here, any of yous who know what a game of hurling is, the Yanks probably need to be caught up, and that's no easy task. I'm just messing. Anyway, here's a quick crash course on hurling. The game of hurling is undoubtedly one of the oldest continuously played sports in the world, having been a staple of Irish culture for over 3,000 years. It involves a spade-like stick called a hurl, and a small leather ball called a schlitter. The object of the game, much like soccer, is to get the ball into the goal. However, in hurling you get 3 points for a goal inside the net and a single point for over the crossbar. It's the fastest field sport in the world, and yes, it is so old that it even makes appearances in ancient Irish mythology. Now obviously this game wasn't a modern, regulated match between two teams with a healthy rivalry. This was ancient hurling, and as you might imagine, two groups of hardened warriors soon to do battle with each other, wielding hardwood clubs. This wasn't a friendly match. This was a test of strength, skill and determinations between two soon-to-be warring races. The outcome of this match would give each side a real eye-opener of who had the more skilled warriors. After a brutal back and forth, the match was won decisively by the two of the Dedanen, resulting in the deaths of every Firbolg player. I told you ancient hurling was a different beast. The violent outcome of the hurling match further escalated tensions between the two groups, demonstrating the two of the day's superiority. The match was played on the morning of Midsummer's Day, and was also the day the battle began, which lasted for 4 in total. Let's get into the weeds of what happened during the first battle of Mai Tora. This day began as a probing of both groups' defences. The two of the Dedanen began with tactical probing attacks using their magical abilities and strategic powers in order to mitigate their own losses. However, the Firbolg were experienced and well-trained warriors and responded with strength and valour, defending their territory with skill. That being said, it unnerved them to fuck, which, Jesus Christ, that's fair, man. Up until now, they had no idea that they were dealing with beings that had magical or near godlike abilities. I'd say there was a bit of a, oh sweet Jesus, what have we done moment for them figuring that one out. The first day also marked the individual duel between a champion of the Firbolg and a champion of the two of the Dedanen. In the Firbolg's corner, you got your boy Shreng. And who's that in the Tuatha De Danann's corner? Oh, you know, just the king of the demigods Nuada. No big deal, just the king of an immortal, supernatural deity race. This should be a pretty cut and dry affair. Despite every odd stacked against him, this Firbolg Gigachad faces off against the king of a godlike race. The duel was intense and skillful, with both warriors demonstrating exceptional combat abilities. But Shreng's balls are just too big, their heft just too immense. He dodges a parry from Nuada, slips beneath his defense, and ends up chopping off his sword arm. Ah, damn, what a beast. This is a huge victory for the Firbolg, because as Celtic law states, no man not perfect in shape should be king. And so, as the first day of the battle ends, the Tuatha De Danann, by their own laws, are now without a king to lead them. The Firbolg were now emboldened by their wounding of Nuada. Both sides then spent the night preparing defences and offences for the coming day's bloodshed, which would be all-out war. The second day saw full-scale warfare begin in earnest. The battle began at midday with both armies charging at each other, resulting in intense chaotic combat. The Tuatha De Danann used their superior weapons and magical skills to fuck up the Firbolgs, while the sound of clashing weapons and battle cries filled the air. Their superior planning and coordination of warfare tactics began to show, as they executed strategic maneuvers designed to outflank and encircle the Firbolg forces. They started to get the upper hand. But while effective, the Firbolgs still responded with valiant counterattacks, using their intimate knowledge of the land in order to mount an effective resistance. Both sides returned from battle to their camps, exhausted from the day's battle. The losses on both sides were heavy, but the Firbolgs were definitely starting to comprehend that these weren't normal warriors. Don't get me wrong, the Firbolg managed to hold their own, but they were starting to feel the strain of facing opponents with greater strategic and magical ability. This day marks some critical turning points in the whole of the battle. The Tuatha De Danann managed to unlock some healing cheat codes the previous day, and by this point the god of healing, Diankect, had healed Nuada through magic, attaching a fully functional silver arm to the former king's maimed appendage. He was known forever after this point as Nuada Argitlav, the Silver Hand. Now, even though he had this perfectly functional replacement, he could still technically not regain his kingship, still not being of perfect shape. That being said, his presence on the battlefield inspired renewed hope within the Tuatha De Danann's ranks. Both armies resumed their clashes, each side determined to gain ground and turn the tide of battle for their own cause. As the day wore on, warriors and champions from both sides fell in battle, their losses becoming overwhelming. Toward the end of the day, a lull broke in the battle where Eochaid Mac Éirc had been hard at work. This part of the story has conflicting views in regards to whether a spell of thirst was put on him or whether it had naturally occurred from the savage fighting. But either way, looking to seize the opportunity, Eochaid sought a body of water where he might quench his thirst. This moment was an ample opportunity for the Tuatha De Danann, and they took advantage of it. While attempting to drink from a nearby river, a small band of Tuatha De Danann warriors caught him unawares, and as you might imagine, ambushed the Firbolg king in a surprise attack where he was subsequently killed. A moment of silence for the OG king. So this is bad news for the Firbolgs, and arguably the moment where the battle is decided against them. As the third day wound to an end, the death of Eochaid Mac Éirc left the Firbolgs' leadership in disarray and the Tuatha De Danann's warriors uplifted, feeling that they were now in a position to solidify their claim to rule over Ireland. With Nuada back in action and Eochaid having fallen...
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
The Tuatha De Danann prepared to deliver a decisive blow to the remaining Firbolg forces. Both sides knew it to be the last day, and so all reserve and remaining troops were summoned to the battlefield with final efforts to secure victory. As the day progressed, the Tuatha De Danann forces managed to break through the Firbolg lines at a critical point. The Firbolg defenders, being outnumbered and outmatched, had begun to be overwhelmed. Their faltering under the relentless pressure of the Tuatha De Danann forces led to their collapse on the battlefield, and once surrounded, the struggle for control over ancient Ireland was at an end. In the end, there was only 300 men left of the 11 battalions of the Firbolg. Now, you might be thinking at this point in the story that the Tuatha De Danann are pretty big pricks, coming in and just wiping out a race of people like that. And you're right, they are. It is the nature of conquest that you'd root for whoever was there first. But they did also have a divine nature to them. Of course, Shreng was still standing among the 300. I mean, his name is literally one letter away from strong. What do you expect? Anyway, being their clear leader, Nuada approached him and offered him peace. Which, considering that 4 days ago this guy chopped off his arm and forced him out of his kingship as a result, it's pretty damn good of him. They were given their choice of one of the 5 provinces to be their kingdom, and they chose Connacht. Which is a bit fucking cheeky, as the Tuatha De Danann literally just set up shop there. But in any case, it was done so, and Shreng, the rest of the Firbolg, and their children after them, made it their home, which they prospered in, long after the Tuatha De Danann met their end. Thus ended the first battle of Mythology, and subsequently the Firbolg too. I mean, what a showcase of mythology in Ireland. The bravery and sacrifices of both the Tuatha De Danann and the Firbolg are nothing short of what legends are made of. While ultimately sealing the fate of the Firbolg as they yielded to the supremacy of the Tuatha De Danann, their influence on the land is still felt today. Like, we still divide the country into the same 4 provinces that they used back then. The only difference being that Meath and Leinster are smushed together because there's no kingdoms anymore. It's more than can be said for the first 3 groups of invaders in any case. There you've got a group of 150 women that die within the first 40 days that they're there. A group of 9,000 inbreds that get knocked out by disease in a week. And some greedy pirates that get enslaved by the Fomhoire. If you want to learn more about that whole rigmarole, there's a handy video in the description. But anyhow, in comparison, the Firbolg are absolute gigachads that are arguably the first group of people ever to actually hold all of Ireland under their sway for any given amount of time. Their timing was just unfortunate, man. Like, they didn't ask to fight demigods with insane magical abilities and warfare tactics. But goddamn, you can't help but respect the guys. You can't say that they didn't hold their own. I mean, maybe unwisely. Once they saw that they had magic, they probably should have run. But I suppose having been enslaved for a good 2 centuries by the Greeks was probably still fresh in their minds. If you had gotten a taste of freedom and ruling your own land after being enslaved for so long that freedom was beyond living memory, you'd probably have done the same. While the Tuatha De Danann were amicable enough in victory, they're still the clear bad guys in this story. While they grow from this black mark on their history to be just rulers of Ireland, they still just came in and wiped out an already established group of people for no other reason than they wanted dominion over Ireland. So while the Firbolg may have been vanquished, their bravery is practically unparalleled throughout Irish mythology. And as a fellow man of the bag, real recognises real. How you doing? If you've reached this point in the video, I'd like to ask that you give it a like, comment and subscribe. Helps me out in the algorithm. Cheers for making it to the end of the video. If you want to watch any of my other stuff or are interested in Irish mythology, I've got 2 other videos. One on the first 3 invaders of Ireland and the other on the Fomhoire. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.